Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be my week 1 breakdown of who we should be adding or who we should be eyeing on the waiver wire this week. I hope you all had a fantastic week 1 and I hope you scored more points in fantasy than I did because I struggled to break 100. So DK Metcalf and Terry McLaurin, two guys I was very high on. Shouts out to you guys for making me look like an idiot this week. But that's enough of me complaining. You don't want to hear about my terrible fantasy football team. This is about making your fantasy football team a lot better by who we could add in the week 1 waiver wire. So let's roll the intro. Starting with the tight end position, I know that's a common position that nobody's guys played very particularly well last week in week 1, whether it was Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Dalton Kincaid. A lot of these guys threw up stinkers or very disappointing weeks that we weren't happy with. But don't panic if you're an owner of any one of those. Let's just weigh out the options on the waiver wire this week and see what we like. The first one being an obvious or a no-brainer would be Isaiah Likely of the Baltimore Ravens. And we're not panicked about Mark Andrews, so if you are a Mark Andrews owner, things will start to turn around. But in terms of what the Ravens do on offense, and their 12 personnel that they like to run, which means 1 running back, 2 tight ends in the formation. This is a common formation that they like to run, and this is part of their passing scheme. So with that, Isaiah Likely should see a healthy amount of playing time, even if Mark Andrews gets back to being one of the best tight ends in football as we know him to be. Isaiah Likely played 66% of the snaps on Thursday night, and Mark Andrews played 74%. So it's not that Isaiah Likely is the new starting tight end, but these guys are going to be playing a lot. They don't prefer to play 3 wide receivers in their formation. Guys like Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman exclusively pretty much ran all of the routes in their wide receiver room and barely came off of the field. But in Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews' case, they're still floating, both of them, over 65% on the snap count. So we know they're going to continue to play a lot of games, which means opportunities for both of these tight ends are coming. So if you need a tight end, not saying add him if you have Mark Andrews, but if you need a tight end, one of your guys got hurt, whether it's Ferguson, Njoku, whoever, look to add Isaiah Likely, as a lot of people in your league are probably going to also do so. For those of you that play in a deeper league or feel like you may not want to spend the fab on a guy like Isaiah Likely, look no further than the Rams tight end Colby Parkinson, who actually had a pretty solid day, even though he didn't wind up scoring a touchdown on Sunday night. Colby Parkinson was on the field for 88% of the Rams snaps, and the concerning part about this is he only had a 10% target share in this game, but was on the field a lot. So with the absence of Puka Nacua being on IR for the next few weeks or so, there is a chance that somebody like Colby Parkinson can see an uptick in volume, because we cannot expect somebody like Cooper Kupp to have 21 targets every single week, or can we? But on a more serious note, I would be expecting Colby Parkinson's target share to increase and float more closer to 20% of a target share, because I don't think Cooper Kupp's 20-plus target volume is actually sustainable. So there is a chance that somebody like Colby Parkinson, who's being overlooked currently, though some people might see the 4 for 47 stat line and say, you know what, he had a pretty nice game, but I'm just going to keep my eye on him. We should be adding that with the idea that maybe he turns into something better. Now let's move on to the wide receiver position. I didn't see too much particularly any wide receiver that really stood out to me that I was like, I need to roster this guy or I need to keep my eye on. But somebody I did mention in the week 1 preview of who to start, who to sit, I said I would be keeping my eye on Greg Dortch, and he definitely did just that. Keep in mind, for a good amount of this game, they were either up the Arizona Cardinals or trailing by 7 points, which would incline that maybe they're going to run the ball more often than they would throw in games where they're down or trailing. And Greg Dortch still managed to have 8 targets and played on 61% of the snaps. So we know that Kyler Murray trusts him because of the targets, and the Arizona Cardinals trust him to play over 60% of the team's snaps. So these are good signs for if you really needed a flex play in your leagues or you play in a deeper format, that you can look to somebody like Greg Dortch just to hold you over, even if it's just for the time being until Zay Jones comes back. I still personally believe that Greg Dortch would still be higher in the receiving pecking order than a Zay Jones when he returns from injury, but I have no actual evidence to go off of other than the fact that Greg Dortch was somebody that was second in targets last week behind just Trey McBride, somebody that was a very high draft pick this season. In games where they're going to be trailing more often than they were against the Buffalo Bills, I would like to add Greg Dortch and consider him a solid flex play moving forward until we potentially see what the offense could look like with Zay Jones. But I'm not saying that you should be unloading all your fab or wasting a waiver priority on him. This is somebody that if you could afford to grab him and it doesn't cost you much in terms of your fab or your waiver priority, I definitely would be stashing Greg Dortch on my bench as a potential solid flex play moving forward. Next is arguably one of the most important positions in fantasy football, and that would be the running back position, where I have 3 guys that I'm looking to add to my roster. The first one, and this is most important if you play in a PPR format, is Alexander Mattison of the Vegas Raiders, who played on 60% of the snaps and played the most snaps in this game out of any of the running backs on this roster. Coming into the season, I really was not a fan of drafting Zamir White anywhere near his ADP, and I think it's safe to say that week 1 showed exactly why. Zamir White is somebody that, though he is a talented runner and provides a lot of speed and versatility, he lacks pass-catching ability, and that's where Alexander Madison's going to shine. In game scripts where the Vegas Raiders are trailing and they're not up, you're not going to see a lot of Zamir White. And how many times this season do we really expect the Raiders to be sitting on a comfortable lead running the ball with Zamir White? Probably not that likely. If you need a running back to add, maybe you went wide receiver heavy in your drafts, I would be looking to grab somebody like Madison just because he has the PPR upside and even the potential to steal away and vulture some of those goal-to-go rushing touchdowns, being that he's a bigger, stronger back than Zamir White is. Like I previously mentioned, if we're not expecting Zamir White and the Vegas Raiders to be up in a lot of their games and have a positive game script, we should be looking to add Alexander Mattison, who provides a little more versatility when they're trailing and in the 2-minute hurry-up mode. The next running back on this list is Tank Bigsby of the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I still do have my concerns about him. But one thing that we cannot deny is that he's carved out a legitimate role in this offense for himself. But I still don't think that we should be considering this backfield a timeshare, as Travis Etienne still played significantly more snaps than Tank Bigsby did, though the carry number was quite similar. It's still Travis Etienne's backfield, and though Tank Bigsby has the potential to vulture some of those short yardage touchdowns, he is clearly not the receiving back that Travis Etienne is, which gives Etienne still that kind of value that his production and his statistics are not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. And finally, if this guy for some reason is still available in your leagues, you need to pick up Jaleel McLaughlin of the Denver Broncos. Jaleel McLaughlin's PPR upside clearly puts him in a more valuable territory right now than somebody like Javonte Williams, who is not only getting a lot of carries, but not getting any of the receiving work in the Broncos backfield. If you or someone in your league wasted a draft pick on somebody like Javonte Williams, I don't see it getting any better, and that's why Jaleel McLaughlin should be rostered. Now finally, time for the quarterback position. If you need a quarterback, this will be the part that you can really benefit from. First up is Baker Mayfield, and I'm still skeptical about adding him with a waiver claim or throwing him right away into your lineup in week 2, but obviously you could do a lot worse, especially if you're somebody that has Caleb Williams rostered as your only quarterback. You may want to add Baker Mayfield, and that's okay, considering that he did play one of the worst, if not the worst, secondary in all of the NFL. I am still worried. You're not going to see, he shouldn't expect, 27 points every week. Even if he lands at 18, you'd be happy with that. But I'm still a little concerned, being that it was just a really good matchup in week 1 for Baker. And the next quarterback and the final waiver wire candidate for our list of week 1 players we should be adding, it's none other than Sam Darnold of the Minnesota Vikings. I wouldn't advise to play Sam Darnold in week 2 coming up against his old team, the San Francisco 49ers. It does intrigue me that he did have a good game against what is a pretty solid defense and an intense defensive front. And I do see the pathway and the opportunity for somebody like Sam Darnold to continue to thrive in a Kevin O'Connell-led offense. 27 points all that often from Baker. Like I mentioned previously about Baker, if Caleb Williams is your only quarterback, then yeah, you could feel good about starting him in week 2. But where I feel like Darnold gets his true value, if you can stash him for this week, is coming up. He'll play Houston in week 3 and Green Bay in week 4, which should both be really good matchups for him, in fantasy at least. But that's all I have for you guys today. If you stuck around and watched this entire video, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, feel free to smash the like button for me. I would really appreciate that. Helps my videos get out to more and more fantasy football enthusiasts just like yourself. And if you're new to the channel, if you like fantasy football content, make sure you subscribe below. We did a week 1 recap of who to start, who to sit. I wasn't really feeling Drake London. I wasn't really feeling Zay Flowers. I gotta, I shot my shot and I made a couple shots. I was getting buckets out there. But if you missed that, it really doesn't matter, but I guess I'll link it somewhere for you. But that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you again so much for watching. My name is Turtle. I'm signing out, and I'll see you in the next video.